you get the materials? I think you guys do. Okay. Why are you in the middle of my screen, Lisa? Hold on. Let's see how it's making the whole video about you right now. Hi, Lisa. That's so funny. I think you must have been the first one like making sound when we came on here. I wonder how
You are showing up as the biggest
main screen for you. Okay. Nah, that's interesting. All right. Well, we're mostly going to screen share, so I guess it'll be okay. But everybody knows how to get to the materials, or should I go over that again? Maybe I'll just go over it again. Okay, so if you go to bridgetdanner.com, on the upper right in the toolbar, you'll see client access. And the bottom one says Detox Your Hormones. Whoops, I always click the wrong one. Detox Your Hormones members. And the password right now is Detox Love, which is what I wanted to call my shop, but I was told that that was a dorky name. But I still think it's cool. And then you'll see, oh, I see what's happening. And then you'll see the different lessons. Did anybody watch the mitochondrial video yet? Lisa and Kelly? You guys are awesome. It's long, it's like an hour, but it's really good. Do either of you want to share? Did you learn anything? I know you're all both very smart, but did you learn anything new? Just unmute yourself if you want to say anything. There we go.
You know, I can't think specifically if I learned anything. It was a lot of information, but it sort of reaffirmed things that I had already learned and pulled it together for me, I think.
Okay. Yeah, some of the suggestions are a little bit good general suggestions, like exercising and avoiding alcohol. But to me, like when I know why, it makes me more motivated.
Yeah.
So cool, great.
Yeah, it was kind of good reminders. I was glad that someone had asked about diatomaceous earth, because I had asked you last week about binders, and I'm like, oh, binders, of course. So yeah.
We're going to talk about binders today.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember who asked that last time. Lisa, I apologize. I just recently realized when I sent you that package that I had talked to you about your business. What was that, like a year ago? I was like, oh, that's Lisa from Washington, D.C. So I'm sorry. I just didn't.
That's okay. You must talk to hundreds of people. No problem.
I do. I normally like pride myself on really like, knowing everybody. And I think it's just a lot harder online to keep, like, you don't have as much frame of reference. So I think it makes it, but once I saw you're from DC, I'm like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah. That's me.
Okay. Let me do my screen share. So anyway, I was saying, if you want to get into the lesson, go to bridgetdanner.com, go to the right to Detox Your Hormones Access, and then use the password Detox Love. This is lesson 4, supplements. So I'm just pulling up my Google Doc here. This is mostly like a big, long document. I realized I have one more document I can share with you about protocols for things like, like fibroids and excess estrogen, which I'm sure you guys would enjoy. So I'll add that one as well. I kind of forgot about that one. But this is all new information today. And, I really believe heavily in making sure your bases are covered before you get into a lot of fancy supplements. I've met so many people as clients who just aren't taking B vitamins, just don't take magnesium, haven't ever checked vitamin D. And these things, to me, it's really a waste of money to go get all fancy if you aren't doing these basic things. And if you remember from the food lesson, for example, B vitamins, they are so important for cycling women, adrenal health, ovarian health, well, mostly ovarian health, but some adrenal health too. Here, you can see right here. Good, so important for detoxification, blood sugar. Oh, I have to let some people in 1 second. Hi, Mickey. So let's see, where was I? Yeah, important for energy production, important for oxygenation of your cells. So B vitamins are just super important, and quality is important. People in this group probably know that, but I'll just reinforce it. You know, buying that stuff from Target and Costco, if you start to look for B vitamins and what they should look like, you'll quickly see that none of those have the right form. So like a cheap form of B12 is the cyanocobalamin, and that's usually what you'll see on the label. The cheap form, so to speak, of what should be folate is folic acid, which, as you know, if you have an MTHFR genetic mutation, you can't do anything with that folic acid, and it's just kind of blocking the receptor sites. Some of them, I was looking these up, you know, like Centrum. I was looking up Centrum. It's got like food coloring in it. I mean, there's just no need for that. So the B12 that you want to look for is usually this methylcobalamin. That helps you if you're a poor methylator. It's like B12 that's broken down. But as I'm just recently learning from Ben Lynch and from running some Dutch labs recently, Dutch test is now testing for B12 like waste products. So these are the other forms of B12 that exist, but I think they're still pretty hard to find. I didn't really know about them until quite recently. So usually you'll see like methylfolate, or sometimes the name is a little longer, but that's usually what you want to see. I did link. Hi.
I just checked, and my multivitamin, my naturopath has me on, has those two other forms of B12.
Oh, it has all three?
Yeah, it's a pure encapsulations, pure genomics multivitamin. It's got, it's actually I'm not going to pronounce it right, but the the first one, it's 50% that.
Okay.
50% the hydro, whatever. So.
Okay, let me write that down. So pure
encapsulations, pure genomics multivitamin. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, please do. Pure genomics.
Yeah.
Multivitamin.
Because I have MTHFR and
okay.
So that's what she has me on.
Let me just get this person in. Hi, Marissa. Okay, so yeah, good to know. I think I must have spelled that wrong. Encapsulation. Okay. So with an organic acids test of this B12 byproduct, you can see if you need one of the other types than the methyl type. So this is a really good article about it, and this is a kind of a summary of it and how these different ones do different things. They all sound pretty interesting to me. So something I would be interested to look into. I mean, but methylcobalamin seems to work pretty well for me, but I'm trying to remember on my Dutch if I had the same problem as well. Yeah, and the little sublingual B12s I like quite a bit. We'll probably carry that on the shop later. I definitely find a lot of women with some red blood cell problems. They can't divide their red blood cells well enough because of these B deficiencies, and then they can end up low on energy. I've had some clients be very seriously like out of breath and not know what was going on until they address like these B vitamins and iron and stuff. So pretty interesting. Here's some of the phases of detoxification that B vitamins are needed for. You know, with B5 and 12 coming up pretty strong. So all B vitamins are water soluble, so you do need to take them every day. And you can really often take above and beyond the dosage because what you don't need, you're going to pee it out. And with stress and pollution, you're going to go through more B vitamins. So they're pretty great. My practitioner is having me take them 3 times a day, which I can't quite always remember, but that's quite a bit, but she thought my body could use it. Okay. Yes.
I was just wondering, do you know if there's any reason or downside to having like super high B12 results on your blood work?
On your blood work.
Because I've been told it doesn't really matter, but
Yeah, I don't know if blood is like a very accurate way to test it. I'll have to look into that. I was just at a lecture last night and they were claiming that you could take the same sample of blood and get 2 very different results from it, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So blood isn't always a great marker. We do use a different lab called, I'm blanking on the name right now, but they test the blood in a different way, in this like medium that gives you an accurate account of all the nutrients. So is there any downside? I don't think so, Anna, but I think what I'm learning from this Ben Lynch stuff is sometimes one will look sort of high because you need a different type. What type do you take right now, if any?
I take methyl.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to read that article and go back to your labs and do a little research because you might need one of these other types, perhaps. That would be my suspicion. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Magnesium also doesn't sound very exciting, but it's very important for the body. Just getting this affordable thing in a higher dose can really help things move along. Thyroid, ovaries, fertility. I have a few articles here if you want to read more. This was another thing I often found. I say, well, are you taking magnesium? They say, well, I'm taking a multivitamin. Most multivitamins don't have much magnesium because you need anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams, and those are big. So if you're taking a 1-a-day multi, it's going to have maybe 40 milligrams of magnesium in it. So you ladies might not, you're smarter than that, but it's really something you can do extra of. If you like it in a topical or put in your bath, that works too. I use it in a multivitamin, and then we sell that magnesium powder too. We can go look at the shop later. You can take magnesium to bowel tolerance. I think usually 600 a day is like kind of plenty, and you might be fine with like 400 or 300. Again, something you could potentially test, but I think that just erring on the side of more magnesium is usually pretty good for you. I had a headache or something, and I took too much in a day, and it did give me loose stool, but mostly, I don't go that far. Here's an interesting resource about medications that deplete magnesium, and birth control pills and estrogen medication were both on there, as was chronic cannabis use, interestingly enough. That was from a different source. And then certainly sugar. You need so much magnesium to process sugar. So anybody's with a sweet tooth is going to have really low magnesium, and then in turn, you're not managing your blood sugar well. So a little bit about the types. The one we have in a powder is the chelated type, and the one that we have in a pill is a malate, which is not chelated, which I was a little disappointed to hear, but doing some research on it, it still absorbs well and it won't upset your stomach. I'll introduce you to these multis in a second. I've been using them like 2 years, and they're amazing. They don't give me any problems. Yeah, feel free to interrupt whenever you want. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Vitamin D, I wanted to give mention to, because also people are either not supplementing it, have never tested, or just kind of willy-nilly supplementing on it. Our multivitamin pack has a little vitamin D, but probably not enough for most people. I want to show you this map. If you live above this line, and most of you do, you're not getting enough sun most of the year to make vitamin D. So it's hard to get enough from the sun. Unless we were living outside with no clothes on. So it often needs to be supplemented. The best way to know is to test. I did give one testing company here. It was $50 here. You could maybe find it cheaper elsewhere. But like, for example, we had my son tested about a year ago and he was quite high, so he doesn't need any. But I've tested women who are at like 12 or 8. And in my opinion, you want to be up around 80. Some people who live in very southern places are more like 120, something like that. The official sort of mainstream level is like 20 to 50. I think 50 could be okay, but if you're dealing with like an autoimmune condition, I would really get up to 80. And usually I would have someone do like 20,000 IU a day for a month or for a few months, depending on where they're at. And then my maintenance is usually more around 5,000 a day in those winter or darker months. A lot of people kind of balk at those numbers, but they're really not that high. 20 minutes in a bathing suit is 20,000 IUs of sun. So, it's not excessive to take 20,000 units when you're deficient. So something to think about and something you can test. Here's a little bit more information from Dr. Hyman. I always recommend D with K2 once I learned about that. The K2, Lisa's nodding, the K2, because the vitamin D kind of helps you absorb more calcium, but then you want it to get into your bones and not your bloodstream. So I always recommend them together, and we are going to add one to our shop with D and K2. I usually like the dropper, but I was having a little trouble finding a good one and a dropper at the right price point. So,
Bridget, it's Lisa. I have actually learned an awful lot. Do you know lef.org, Life Extension?
I know Life Extension brand.
They have a magazine, they have articles. I've just really learned a lot from those guys. And that's where I first learned about combining K2 with D.
It's funny you say that because that's a brand we're going to carry. Life Extension.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it's DK2, and then they put a bunch of like iodine, like kelp in it. So I'm not really sure why they put it in there, but I was like, I was a little like, I know people are a little touchy about iodine. They don't want to take too much. But I thought it looked like an interesting formula. And yeah, they offer labs too. I don't know all the details on the labs and the costs, but they've been around a long time, and I do think they're doing good work.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. See what somebody said. Anna said she uses Thorn vitamin D with K2. Yeah, I don't know why right now I'm having trouble finding it in the form that I used to have at my clinic. Mickey said that's a good one. Okay, now let's get into another more controversial area, maybe fish oil and oils. So, do you guys follow Dan Pompa at all? Who's like a detox guy. He's like really dogging on fish oil that we take too much and we don't need so much. And I've honestly found it to be very beneficial for me as I go through detox. But I read what he said, and I read some other sources, and I think he really has a point. I think that when fish oil got discovered, so to speak, for a while, I don't know if you guys remember, people were saying it should be 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3 to 6. That was what people were saying. And I think that is kind of reversing. So maybe a little bit, go ahead. I thought someone says, maybe a little bit more moderately. Anne Louise Goodman says 4-to-1 ratio, omega-6 to 3. I don't know if Dan Pompa said exactly, but he has this information I posted here about how much omega-3 is really in our bodies, and that we're utilizing omega-6 a lot more often for cell walls and that kind of a thing. So I thought that was good to know, and I was sort of congregate that information to say, where did I put it? I think maybe if you're just sort of maintaining and you're like not trying to get pregnant, maybe 500 milligrams EPA DHA is like a good average dose. But if you are trying to conceive, I think 1,000 is a good solid dose, and to really make sure you're getting. Some fish oils will say 1,000 milligrams, but the EPA DHA is lower. So Elisa is in this category with 1,000, and the rest of us are more in the 500 category. And then I think another rule of thumb is like the ratio, right? So sometimes I do take more fish oil when I'm flared up, but I guess I should also be taking more seed oil at the same time so that the ratio stays correct and I'm not like overly flooding. But I will say, like, if I take a high dose fish oil, it's usually just for like a day or a few days. I don't keep taking it. So you need to worry that you're not getting enough omega-6. I think, Anna, it's good to just bump up your omega-6. I don't know. That's a good question. I think you need to get a lot of fats. And I think that most of us need to sort of add extra fat sources to our day. So if you're making, I don't know, like broccoli and potato or steak or something, like how are you getting other fats onto that? You have some hopefully fats in a good grass-fed steak, but can you add, butter and hemp oil or flaxseed, or like just constantly, I think constantly be adding nuts and nut oils and nut butters is a great idea. Mickey says a chronometer will show you. Oh, Mickey, do you want to talk about that, please?
Hello.
There you go.
Chronometer is a food like MyFitnessPal, and you can just put in exactly what you're eating, and it'll break it out for you.
Okay.
Because yeah, I find out the way I eat with range-free meat and organic meat, my 6s and 3s are right on, and I don't need to add either one of them.
Oh, that's good to know. That's a good solution. I think something like that is good to do every now and then. I sort of did a breakdown like that in the food section. It's a little tedious to do continuously, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, just do it every once in a while. It's got a lot of, it shows you the nutrient breakdowns are really nice in that.
Okay, that's a great tip. Okay. And then this one, the GLA, you don't really get that from your diet. That's like borage oil, basically, and evening primrose oil. You're not going to get that in your diet. So I think that is a good one to consider supplementing. And some oil blends will have that and a little fish oil and like a little blend, which I'm starting to be a little more attracted to as something to have around. And I shared with you in the food lesson those perfect press oils that are really nice. Yeah, I think you guys know about fish oil's quality. I did a little research in this too. The company I use is highly triglyceride bound, which has like the structure of a fish oil in an actual like piece of fish. I did see another source that said this other type, this ethyl ester, absorbed just as well, but not according to the company I work with. So I'm going to stick with what the company I worked with said, which was to have this triglyceride bound. It makes sense to me, and they have a link about it here. Okay, another maybe not exciting one, but important one is probiotics. And like the one we usually recommend is Megaspore. Not to say it's the only good one, but I think it's a pretty special one. And I gave you some resources here about, this one is quite good about how Megaspore compares to other probiotics. Many probiotics die as soon as they either on the shelf, in your stomach, they just can't survive. And it's a difference between, a spore-based probiotic can live internally and externally. It can't, if you make a probiotic in a factory, it's not a spore, it's in an aerobic environment. As soon as it gets into your gut, it can't survive. As soon as it gets into stomach acid, it can't survive. So I think it's a pretty great product, and we've had a lot of success with it. It has bacillus strains, so it's very certain kind of strains that do the quorum sensing of your gut and can feed the good bacteria, starve the bad bacteria. in all my years of selling it, I guess it's only been a couple years, I've only had one person with a problem, and I think she just was having a lot of die-off because she had a really complicated case and a lot going on, and she was like working on candida. But mostly I don't see that being a problem, but you could potentially have some die-off from it. Frankly, after learning about that glyphosate thing, just digging into glyphosate, I'm really going to be more careful to use probiotics. You don't have to do every day, remember, but just at least some of the week, remember, because we're really under siege, and there's so many things that want to kill our good bacteria, and it's so important. This is an interview. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's about Carrying Christians talking about Megaspore and the Saccharomyces boulardii and the products we have in our gut kit. So we actually have 3 gut kits. I have a video comparing them here. If I know some people are working on their gut, concerned about parasites, they've written on the group. So we have 3 kits, and they're all a little different. I would say our gut restoration kit is mostly for leaky gut and maybe kind of a damaged gut. If you've taken antibiotics, if you have food intolerances, it's very nice and soothing, and I think it's good for just about anyone, except a few people with SIBO might not like it because it has some fiber in there. So that's why we sort of developed this bloating kit that I would recommend you take first if bloating is your main problem. Even though there's just a little bit of fiber in this one, if you have a lot of SIBO, it'll eat that fiber and you could get bloated. So getting a lot of success with this bloating kit, and it's really affordable. I think it's under $100. And then the last one is this gut infection kit, which is through Biocidin Company, Biobotanical Research. It has a little multi-herbal bug killer, kills all sorts of things, molds, Lyme, parasites, bacteria, and then it has a binder, and then it has a probiotic that's basically purchased from Megaspore. It's a very similar product, but it has also quercetin for inflammation. So it's a really nice kit if you can't afford to do a gut test and you just want to do a cleanup. I think it takes a month, and I don't think there's really any downsides. You just kind of maybe, make sure you take the right amount of the killing agent so that it doesn't upset your stomach.
So you use it has the GI detox for the die-off?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of general one that you could probably, it is in the picture shows a tincture because that was the only picture we could get, but it's actually in a capsule. So if a client is still having some die-off, they could just take 1 capsule instead of 2 type of thing. I included that because, a lot of people still have gut issues. It's still it's the number 1 symptom that people complain about when we did a survey. So, and binders. I just had this second article released on the blog for you guys. So I didn't, reprint it all here, but we got into almost all the types of binders in these 2 articles: chlorella, fulvic and humic acid, silica, pectin. They're all a little different. They all have pros and cons. Some of them work more in the gut. Some of them supposedly, get into the bloodstream. Apparently it has to do with like short chain and long chain form or something like that. So I like the GI Detox. The new formulation has like 5 different ingredients in it. So it's just a well-rounded situation. Some binders are better for heavy metals. Some are better for the gut, this type of thing. So I feel like why not just kind of get all of it. I do also like the liquid fulvic and humic acid by Green Smoothie Girl. That's one that I have. Mickey, I know you sent me some information on a guy who's working with, is it just fulvic acid or just humic acid? Do you remember that?
Humic acid, it was Andrew Hayes.
Yeah, he likes that one better, the humic acid.
Uses that for, I guess, to eat the viruses. I guess I don't know how you.
Use it more for yeah. Well, you can read on. I mean, these are pretty dense articles, so anyone's interested, you can read on about the types of binders here. I'm starting to feel like binders shouldn't be used constantly. I think they can be used while you're using a sauna, where you're going through some kind of protocol. I'm starting to think they should not be used every day, like just like a habit. I'm starting to suspect that they might contribute to some restless leg in me a little bit. So that's just sort of a suspicion that I have going, because they can potentially bind minerals. And I used to not be that worried about it, but now I'm starting to think maybe something is going on there. But I think they're really nice, and if you've never played around with them, I think it's worth doing, especially if you're going to go through a big mold detox or parasite detox or something.
I think you're right about the minerals, because I'm noticing I'm on binders right now for, I've taken them like straight for like 6 months, or maybe even over 6 months, and I noticed that my bones are clicking.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's a mineral thing.
Yeah, I think for me, it took a long time to realize too. And I do also think it's like if my period's coming, I can get more leg cramps, but I'm starting to have that suspicion. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, this can be just like the fish oil. It can be too much of a good thing. Everyone crazy for fish oil. We got to go a little slow with the binders. They're a nice thing to have around the house for sure too, for stomach, staph, and that kind of a thing. Glutathione, we've talked about a few times in this course. I sort of struggled with which one I would carry in the shop because some of them are quite expensive. Some of them really haven't moved the needle for me, I felt like, when I took them. So I ended up with this spray glutathione. Let me see if it'll, from a company called Results RNA. It's super easy to take, which can be a nice like change of pace to, not have a handful of pills. And basically I'm adding all these things to the shop on like a pre-order basis right now. I don't know what you guys want sometimes. So I figured, let me just put stuff in the shop. I'll give you a discount code. It's going to be a little slower to get to you because it's not actually in the shop yet. It's like a pre-order, but then I can see what you want. And if everybody's loving the binders or loving the glutathione or whatever, then we'll keep it in the shop, more long term. But this is it right here. They also have a silver that I really like. They have a glutathione. I'm sure I'll add the silver. They have a zeolite. I'm sure I'll add the silver later because I really love the silver. But yeah, I added the glutathione here. I think kind of like the binders, you can chime in if you find it different, Mickey, but I don't feel like they really like, oh, wow, I just took a binder and I feel amazing, or I just took glutathione and I feel amazing. I think it more works in the background. I think the levels of glutathione build kind of slowly. They don't just like shoot up as soon as you take it. What do you think, Mickey?
I think that sometimes it really, really works. Definitely the kind of it, whether the form of it. I just recently went to a detox thing for the last 3 days. I'm actually on my way home from it now, and they said to ramp up, if you're taking glutathione, liposomal, or even any kind, if you take NAC throughout the day, that will boost the effects of it.
Oh, okay.
Interesting
I can
thing.
see that.
But going back to your question, I've noticed when I take glutathione IV, then I can smell and taste, and I'm like, much clearer. And then certain like a higher dose of liposomal, I can, I'm much, not the same as the IV, but I'll feel good and then I'll crash. I think it's because of it detoxes so heavily. So I think it depends on like how you're feeling before you take it. But I think it's amazing though.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. And that's probably true with the NAC. I mean, I think they both kind of supplement a little differently. NAC is the N-acetylcysteine, which is a building block for glutathione. And I kind of mentioned that in this section. You can just focus on the building blocks of glutathione with foods. We kind of talked about that in the food section. But another option is to just go straight for the glutathione. or you can do the NAC.
How much NAC? I'm sorry, it's Lisa. How much NAC would you recommend?
What did they say at your thing, Mickey, to take it a few times a day? Like 600 3 times a day or 400?
It was a small dose. I will check my notes and I'll post it.
Okay.
I mean, it was like 4 days of just continuous things. I have like so much in my head. It's like, but it was really interesting because they said to smaller amounts throughout the day, and it boosts the glutathione that you're taking. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Lisa, I'm not entirely sure the recommended dose outside of this protocol.
Okay.
Has anyone heard? Yeah, I was just gonna say, has anyone heard of like a nebulizing glutathione? Inhaling it?
I have a nebulizer, but I've never heard of nebulizing it. Has anyone?
I've
You have to
done
be
that.
really careful with that because it's got to be made in a certain way, and you got to make sure it's absolutely clean. If you're going to do it, you should get it from a compounding pharmacy, and it's got to be shipped on dry ice. It's it's good for brain things. Another thing that really made such a difference for me, but it's crazy expensive and it's such a hassle.
Yeah, I haven't done it lately, but my specialist gave me a prescription for compounding pharmacy to get the glutathione. And he sold me the nebulizer, and I used it on and off like many times. It is a bit of a work to set it all up and all that. But then you can just sit and watch something.
You put it on your nose or your mouth?
It's like a mask over. I can't use the one. I have so much jaw pain. I can't use the one that just goes through your mouth, I think it is. Because I can't keep, it just bothers me. I can't keep my mouth sort of closed over it. So I just use the regular mask over my face. But I can't really tell if it helps me that much or not. But, he keeps emphasizing to use it as much as possible. I was just wondering if anybody else had.
Yeah. Were you using, what symptoms were you using it for, if I can ask?
I have chronic pain. I'm diagnosed with Lyme disease. I have several autoimmune diseases.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it is good for all sorts of things, for sure. You guys know about, I like coffee enema, probably the best of everything.
Yeah, that I do like. That I love.
Okay.
I mean, that's a pain, but
it takes more time. Yeah. And one thing I like about this spray, it's a little different kind of a spray. It's almost like a homeopathic kind of spray. It's not exactly homeopathic, but if you look at the dose, it won't look very high. It's a very different delivery system. But they do have some studies on it, and I haven't given it to a lot of people, but one of my clients, like, it makes her, sleepy right away. So again, maybe some people do get immediate effects. We're all a little bit different. I wanted to mention I put it in a kit with the GI Detox and a dry brush set here at this link. So I think that's a really fun kit. So
is it okay if I ask? I was just wondering for Anna, if I've been reading an awful lot and trying to get as much information as I can about CBD oil, and it seems to be incredibly effective for a lot of pain conditions.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm using that too. I'm using everything. But yeah, I have the actual strain that's from the research in Israel. So it's supposed to be the best. So far, I hadn't been using it for very long. I've tried other kinds before this. So far, it's not bothering me, and some of them did. So we'll see what happens over time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the CBD oil for pain and sleep. I find that the cost, like, for the amount, sometimes I have to take seems like a lot. And I'm not allowed to sell it on my shop, at least right now, so I can't. But this same company that does the glutathione, they make a really nice CBD oil. and Designs for Health came out with a CBD product that I just tried yesterday. You can get them in different concentrations. Of course, the more expensive, the better, more concentrated. I think it's really good. Also, the essential oil copaiba has a similar effect. So that could be one to try, mess around with also.
Bridget.
Oh. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask about CBD oil as it's popping up everywhere and becoming very popular with things like all things, really, truly, pain and anxiety. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on CBD oil for overall hormone balance.
I haven't heard about it for hormones as much, but I think just the fact that it's like calming could create some hormone balance, just by default. So I'll have to look that one up, CBD and hormone balance. I definitely haven't, I looked at it quite a bit as Copaiba was coming out with some new products with doTERRA, and I never saw hormones mentioned specifically. But I think that's a good question. Yeah.
And then with the CBD oil, is there any documented just adverse effects? And would you say it's similar to if you were taking tryptophan or if you were taking GABA, pharma-GABA? Do you have any comparisons to it?
I don't think it's, with taking tryptophan and GABA, it's a little bit more of a direct alteration of those pathways and like levels. I don't think that CBD works quite the same. We just did learn that maybe cannabis use over time depletes magnesium. I think they might be talking more about the smoking than, than CBD. I did learn yesterday that if it's like a heavily flavored oil, it's usually to cover up a cheap CBD oil. And like you said, there's so many companies now, it's sort of hard to know what's good. So I've come across a couple companies I think are good, but there's a lot more. I know there's one that my friends at Rebel Health Tribe sell, so I'm sure they did their research. I think you just got to kind of take a harder look at the company. But yeah, I don't know if there's really a danger of long-term use. I mean, I think anytime you're using the same substance day in, day out to control anxiety or sleep, that's kind of showing a body dependence where I would suggest to look a little deeper. But that's mostly what I have to say about it. Anybody else want to chime in?
I actually just bought some from Quicksilver. And I
thought yeah. How is it?
I actually haven't even received it yet. But it was for pain. I've got some patients with some really pernicious, just long-term, and I just need to move the needle on those guys. Yeah, I think that's a good brand. We're gonna see one of their products next, I think. Yeah, and maybe the delivery method is better. Yeah, sorry, my dog is screaming. I've gotten some good results just to kind of take the edge off if I'm sore and I can't fall asleep. That's kind of mostly what I use it for, but I think it could be used for PMS or like you said, chronic pain, Lisa, while you're working on other issues. Yeah. Sorry. Very upset about something. 1 second, I'm gonna yell at him. Hands up! Well, that did it. He weighs 8 pounds, so he's noisier than usual. This is one of the best products I found while I was detoxing is phosphatidylcholine. And this is the brand that I would say is the best. You can buy it in a pill for cheaper, but it's not going to work as well as this one. I think this is Quicksilver brand. Let's see here in a second. Yeah, this is Quicksilver brand. So their products aren't cheap, but they're pretty good. They're pretty effective. I think I showed you that I bought a liposomal bitters from them. Just a second. My son is not. Hey, so where is everybody? Are you guys all on the West Coast?
I'm East Coast, New Jersey.
Ah, I'm in Washington, D.C.
I'm in New Jersey also.
I'm in
Okay.
Cleveland.
Okay, we should all be taking D.
I'm in Canada.
Yep.
Get tested. Okay, so this phosphatidylcholine can work for different things. As learning it's good for the liver, it's good for like ulcerative colitis, but I think it's the star quality is its effect on the brain. It seems to be very anti-inflammatory for the brain. So if you're going through brain fog, headaches, poor memory because of toxicity, or even it's an unknown cause, I think this product is really fantastic. You could just do 1 serving a day as maintenance, and you could do a couple a day, even maybe 3 a day if you're really in a bad flare up. And yeah, just feel free if any questions. This is a phospholipid, and again, kind of the power of fats to just help regulate the body. All right, so moving on, we had a little video about mitochondria. Some of you have watched. I've been taking CoQ10 on and off for a little while, but somebody told me about this one called MitoQ. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but this is the best one. It's just in a form where it's like bound to something that lets it enter the cell. So most CoQ10 doesn't really get utilized by the cell, but MitoQ gets utilized quite a bit more. There's an original formula, and then they have some that are $10 extra that have like blood sugar herbs, liver herbs. The liver one is supposed to be quite good. They even have one for the skin. I didn't put that in the store yet, but I just kind of wanted to see which ones you guys would be interested if I put these out there. The rep said this one for the liver, she thinks more people should be ordering, because if you're getting this, you probably also have a taxed liver. So just giving you a little extra love for the liver. Many of my clients are struggling with blood sugar. Jean, who isn't here today but is in the group, this might be a good one for her because she's working on blood sugar. So rather than taking 2 different things for a little extra, you can get something. So I shared a little story here that I've been taking this MitoQ for about a month, I'd say, and I don't know which sort of happened first, but I've also kind of wanted to give up caffeine completely and get off chocolate. So I've sort of done all those things at once, and I'm really seeing like major differences in my energy staying even throughout the day. It's almost 5 here. I've worked really hard today. I've had a couple moments where I was like, ugh, I want a break. And I've taken a little break, but I haven't, really crashed. And crashing used to be very typical for me, no matter what I was doing or eating. Even if I was like on a cleanse or doing something really great, I would still crash and I get a headache. So I think this product is really powerful, and I'm probably going to take it kind of forever because it's anti-aging, just keeps your cells functioning correctly. So I have a few of those in the shop if you want to try it. Definitely one of my favorite new products. And then we're making good time today. And then hormones. So I added a handful of formulas for hormones, and I'll show you those in a minute. I realized, I had this hormone section in the store and nothing really in it. And I kind of realized why. It's because it's pretty hard to recommend hormone supplements when you don't know what's going on with someone's hormones. I do think for some of these, it's better to test. I think the biggest one would be the estrogen to me. You don't really know what your estrogen level is until you test. And I gave an example that so many women tell me that they have high estrogen and they're afraid of flax oil and what can they do to clear estrogen. And they never tested. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just kind of reading stuff and hearing stuff. So if you go lower your estrogen, you might not be doing yourself any favor. I didn't put this one in the store yet, but I will. I put one that lowers estrogen because some of you have tested and you do know you're high in estrogen legitimately. So you may want to try a product, but you may need to raise estrogen. So that one I think is the trickiest one to figure out. Progesterone, most of us need to raise this. Whether you're like Lisa and working on getting pregnant, most of us are weaker in the progesterone side of things in the cycle. So that one could be, a good one as you go through perimenopause, especially to boost testosterone. You're probably going to know if you're low in that because you're losing muscle mass, you have no sex drive. I think that could be an easy one to recommend. I like this Thyromend. If you know you have poor thyroid conversion, it's safe for any different thyroid problem. And that one's a good one. This Adrenal Mend for adrenals. We pretty much all could use this one. And then they have one that's called Endocrine Complete. It's a little different. So most of these you could take two a day or 4 a day if you need like a high dose. But the Endocrine Complete is like a multivitamin plus herbs. So you're supposed to take 4 a day. So it's a little more expensive, but it works on all these systems. So it's just like a tonic for every system. Plus it has things like chromium for your blood sugar and different like a little extra B vitamin and stuff. So I don't have every, I'm going to add more product guides, but I don't have every detail. I haven't memorized all these formulas because I really just decided to carry them. Let's copy this. But you can look deeper into each formula and compare them to, I can add some more resources if you want to request it. But they'll kind of talk here in this document about, you can see easier what's in it. Like this has a lot of nutrients, but really I think to me the more interesting part is this herbal blend that it has right here. Here's those 2 estrogens, one to reduce, one to increase. Pretty interesting. The EstroQuench is like an aromatase inhibitor is how it works from like plant flavonoids. So that's pretty cool. And let's see, the Estromend has Dongquai, Bacoba, Gotu Kola, hops. So a little bit calming, black cohosh. This can be really ease hot flashes. I know someone in the group has hot flashes. So this could kind of ease.
The youngest in the group, remember I sent you that Facebook about the hot flash last week? It was so bizarre.
You're not the only one, but yeah, I think there's 2 of you at least.
It was like in the middle of our session last Tuesday, and all of a sudden I was like, whoosh, like I just had to take off everything. It was hot. But
yeah.
I have a question for you regarding, so I did a ZRT lab test to test where my hormones levels were at. This was a few months back.
What, can you remind me, is that a urine or saliva?
It's a saliva.
Okay.
So, and from what I understand, the Dutch is that a urine test?
Yeah.
Which is
the saliva is good too. Yeah.
Okay.
No, saliva is good.
I did the saliva test and my estrogen was not necessarily low and my progesterone wasn't necessarily low or out of range. It was the ratio of the estrogen to the progesterone made me more showed that I was more estrogen dominant. So of these supplements or just any thoughts with that?
Yeah, so I think you need the Progestomend. So your estrogen's okay, but your progesterone in comparison isn't high enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did take a chasteberry. My integrative medicine doctor had prescribed me a chasteberry supplement that ended up giving me esophagitis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm that person that gets all the very, very, very rare side effects with all of like supplements, medications, things like that. So are there any...
Let's see what's in that. Yeah.
And I did see there was some chasteberry at the end.
Is it this one? No. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Standardized. Yeah. Well, I mean, we have a return policy. So if you don't like it, you can send it back.
Okay.
Or we can find you a different one if you're like worried about the chasteberry after the last experience. It does seem to be the last ingredient, which I would think means it's the least, right?
Right,
Probably.
right.
Yeah, and this is again like 2 to 4 a day. usually you can go down to 2, but if you're in a real fix, people might want to go to 4 in the beginning. It's a little expensive. It's like $55, but it's probably worth it for like a boost. And then it's only like $22 a month, which isn't quite so bad.
Right.
I think that'd be worth a shot.
Yeah, can't hurt. I'm seeing the passion flower and the yam root and things like that I have seen before. So
yeah, these are like all in Latin. I like need to sit with these. I honestly haven't used this company. I've been looking at them. I just didn't pull the trigger. But then I went back to them, and I really like that they're very herbal. Yeah, except for that first one that has the multivitamins. Like there was one I found for perimenopause, but it had caffeine. I'm like, I like how they look. And you guys are going to have to kind of help me out and be the judge.
I've used them for a while. I think that they're really good. And I like,
good.
Joseph Collins. He really researches things.
Yeah.
I was training with him, and he's.
Oh, you have? Yeah. I think he's up here on the beginning, this guy here.
Yep, there he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
I'm still a little
hormones.
bit new to
I've
this
used them for a
company.
long time.
Oh, his company's called Your Hormones. That sounds interesting. I shared with you guys earlier, recordings from Rhonda Nelson, and she uses Standard Process and MediHerb, and I like them a lot. They won't let you sell on the internet, so I felt like my hands were a little tied on that one. We could order it privately for people, but that's not really like a good long-term model. So yeah, there is a return policy if you don't like something, but take something, maybe take 2 a day, and after a couple of weeks you want to bump it up, you could. It's just sort of finding what moves the needle for you, and then usually you can come down and maintain. Let me see, Alyssa, if there's any others that would be interesting for you. Is your thyroid okay?
Yeah, so all my thyroid hormones checked out, all my blood work checked out. Interestingly, when I got a SpectraCell test a few years ago, when all this happened with my hormonal imbalance, it's like history repeating itself. My magnesium was low. And
that's the test I was thinking earlier. Thank you for saying the SpectraCell test.
SpectraCell, yeah, it was amazing. So I am on a lot of magnesium, and that has significantly helped. And I also did the MTHFR test as well, and found that I do not methylate my Bs. So
yeah, it's a big one for fertility too. So I think that's an important one. How was your cortisol? High, low, fine?
Cortisol was... she had me do it at the different times throughout the day. So in the morning it was on borderline high, and then the evening it was borderline high. I was definitely in like an adrenal crisis at that time. So I've come a long way since then. So I'd be curious if I did it again, what that would look like. I think now what I'm experiencing is just the hormone imbalance that was kind of the cause and effect, or was the effect of the adrenal fatigue.
So your hormones haven't quite come back.
Correct. So when I came off of birth control about 4 years ago, it took my hormones 1.5 years to get back in sync. So it definitely takes my body a long time. So getting there slowly but surely.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably already taking some of these kind of things like adaptogens. I did mention vitamin C on this document, but I still leveled vitamin C for adrenals. What else would I say? If you have the money at some point, I think a multi-day Dutch would be interesting for you. I mean, did you just have one hot flash ever?
When I had my adrenal crisis back in May, I was very sensitive to temperatures and was having like weird hot flushes and flashes from time to time. And I haven't had one since last Tuesday, but it was right after my cycle ended. So I'm really sensitive. I can like feel where I'm at like throughout the month. So I'll keep an eye on it next month to see if that happens again. But how much is a Dutch test?
The month-long one is more. It's more like 350, 325. The one-day one is 250. But yeah, the one where you take several samples is more expensive. But you know, I didn't believe this at first. Like Dan Kalish was like, you can ovulate twice a month. And I'm like, that's not a thing. But we have seen people have estrogen surges more than once a month. And maybe I'm just like projecting that idea on you. And it's about you. And you're like, I had a hot flash. I'm like, you know, it just makes me wonder. But also if you say it's after your period, it could be, sometimes it's hard to speculate, but sometimes it's like a detox thing, and sometimes it's like a low hormone level thing. It might be more low hormone level at that, if it's like 5 days later or something like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think you're on the right path. I also feel like I want to look up something. You know, I think with just stress nowadays, like I just think there's so much like almost like pressure on the HPA axis. And I kind of want to just look into like essential oils that we could like, I think I have this problem too, because like I have low hormone levels and I just feel like it's like top down, not happening. So I feel like if there's something you can kind of like massage there, and I'm sure there is, I don't know. I'm just getting that sense lately, like, what can I do to just kind of like ease my body to know like it can make that production. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're talking essential oils and hormones next week. So we better get more than 7 people on that one, because that's going to be great. We have a guest. She's like superstar of hormones for essential oils. So we can ask her as well about that. She might have some ideas. Okay. Well, this is kind of the whole document. This is the coupon code. So again, giving you a coupon code as a thank you for being a little patient, because you would not get these things right away. But it very much helps me to see what people would even be interested in. And I'll probably, just because this is still a little bit too small of a group to get a full read, I'll probably share it with the whole community on the website. Again, it's like the more people that order, the more I can tell what you want. And I just have learned from this little store. The little store gets very expensive very quickly. So I really need to get a sense of what people are interested in. Because I honestly have, I don't know, maybe everyone's going to want the lowering estrogen. Maybe people don't understand the testosterone issue. I think the testosterone is a really big issue, but I think a lot of women don't appreciate that. Thyroids and adrenal, though, I think a lot of women understand that issue. There's also a glucose one I did not include yet, but that could be interesting as well.
I had an interesting, I don't know,
yeah.
Just out of interest, I had an interesting experience with testosterone, because I read that, it can give you energy and it's good for fibromyalgia and stuff like that. So I asked for a supplement and I got a cream. And my my testosterone went dangerously high, like really dangerously high. So he took me off it. So now I don't even know what my testosterone is.
How did you feel?
I didn't really know.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
How long were you on it?
I was on it for like 6 months or something.
Oh,
and I think I missed one of my appointments somehow.
Oh.
My doctor was really pissed off that I just came back and had like dangerously high.
Well, that's good feedback. I'm on my first month or so of bioidentical hormones. I never thought I would try it, but I was like, let me just try. And at first I was like, these aren't doing anything. But now I'm like, these are definitely doing something. I'm not spotting. I have a ton of sex drive. Like, I don't even know where this all came from. So I'm like, staying around. Yeah. I know. My husband's okay with that. I always get a little break, a couple little zits. So I was very nervous that it would make me break out more, because I do make that like alpha testosterone pretty well. But
I did get that problem.
You did get?
Yeah, I did get a few zits here, like on and off. Yeah. I haven't had them since. Yeah.
Some of us will convert that testosterone into, like,
my Sorry.
Go ahead.
Like my integrative whatever specialist, he said I can't remember how he explained it. It was like the reason it was going high is because it wasn't converting right in the pathway or something, and I didn't get a chance to actually write down what he said or take a picture of his little graph thing, but I gotta ask him again. But he explained it, and he also prescribed me a small dose of DHEA that I put under my tongue. So we'll see what my next blood work is like.
Yeah, I used to sell, I guess we still have it in our kind of back end shop. We have a libido supplement called Libido Stim, I think, and it has some DHEA plus herbals. And that I found very effective too, but definitely made me break out. Like I could only take one a day, which I probably still could have. But yeah, I think that, unfortunately, just the way that we break down hormones, make hormones, it won't always be a fit. And I feel like I get these questions online a lot, like, well, because some doctors are like, you need to be on them for life. They're like God's elixir. They're the best thing ever. And it's just like, it's really very individual. So, yeah, I think it's okay to just try. Mickey, you've been trying them for a while. Do you feel anything or not?
I don't think the progesterone really helps me sleep.
Okay.
It helps me relax. Estradiol, I really can't tell the difference. And I tried the testosterone cream for a while, and it didn't really do anything. But then that was like the top when I was really sick from the mold. But I think as I get better, I'm going to try them again and see whether it can make a difference. I've lost a lot of muscle, so I kind of would like to try the testosterone again for the muscle thing. But the estradiol, I haven't noticed anything.
I wonder if you go off, will you notice or not? Well, I guess it sounds like you might keep the progesterone around.
Oh, I love the progesterone. Love it.
Okay. Yeah. I think for me, like, I don't notice, I think it takes a little while. Like your doctor told you, Mickey, like it takes a little, some months of being on it to see how it changes your cycle. One of my biggest things was spotting. And it was so annoying, and it would be so frustrating to be like once again, like 20 days into my cycle and spotting. And I just felt like herbs were not doing it. And frankly, there's only so many pills we all want to take in a day. So taking all pills for hormones plus detox plus, it just can be a little much. And since if you are cycling and your period only comes once a month, it can be hard to keep motivated to take it every day, I think. So I'd be curious if people like this endocrine complete, if that kind of evens things out for them to take as a multivitamin. If you guys have brands that you really love, you can mention them too. I just kind of ended up with this line because just for a few reasons, and there's a lot of good variety, and not some weird stuff like caffeine and stuff like that. So,
Bridget, I want to say the progesterone from the Douglas Labs, that's very similar. I feel very similar to the actually taking the hormone with that one.
Oh, good. That's really good to hear.
The product, if anybody wants to try that, you have to ramp up slowly on it, like you said, but it will really relax you, and you'll get a really good night's sleep.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, that kind of crabbiness, irritability, poor sleep that women go through in their 40s, early 50s, a lot of that's just progesterone that they can help out. And then for some people, this like Estromend would be good if it's like the hot flash type pattern or brain like forgetfulness too. The Estromend could potentially help.
So it sounds like these are gentle enough that you could do them without, it sounds like, without testing, or because I
mostly, I guess my only the only ones I'm more concerned about, and you might be right, Lisa, they're not exactly dangerous, would be the estrogen modulation, because I just think a lot of people don't don't have accurate information about their own estrogen. The body kind of can trick us a little bit. The symptoms can mimic each other, but yeah, I think you're generally right. It may not even be the worst. Like this estro quench, the way it works is it just blocks like aromatase inhibitor so that you don't make like too much estrogen out of your steroid hormones. So, I mean, it probably is not ideal if you have low estrogen, but I guess you'd probably find that out by getting worse. Yeah. I mean, this is like kind of the balance that we have to strike with, testing and private treatment is expensive and not everyone is going to go there. So if people do want to get their hands on stuff, they're not tested, then maybe just have to take their chances and see what works. I've certainly done that with plenty of supplements though, that are treatments that I was like, well, I'm not doing that again. So, but yeah, and they're all herbal, Lisa. And I think like Nikki said, they're really nicely designed. So, yeah, I think they are generally safe.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's tempting, but since I'm on the other side of menopause, I'm like, I really would kind of like to know. I'd like to run the Dutch and see what, exactly what's going on, because I'm just not sure. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if some of my symptoms are because I'm 60 or because I'm, my hormones are, whatever, or both.
Yeah, it's definitely worth testing at any age. We'll talk more about it in 2 weeks. The Dutch test just keeps getting better. They keep adding more things and they don't raise the price. So it's just getting to be a better and better value. Now they show you like neurotransmitters or the B12, like COMT, like I feel like every time I run a Dutch, like it won't go on forever. I'm sure they'll stop eventually, but it's pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And you do see unusual things. I just had a client who was 57, I think. And her estrogen was still really strong. Her cortisol was very strong. Yeah, like, you just wouldn't have guessed all these things. Like, her estrogen was like abnormally high almost for her age. So in her case, she legitimately needs this like estro quench. She's risking. She has a history of fibroids or something. I think it was fibroids. She's risking, potentially like cervical cancer because she's making estrogen at 57. She hasn't had a period in a year or whatever. Why is she making so much estrogen? Something's going on there that needs to be addressed. And in the meantime, she needs to get that estrogen down. So, there's some results you see and you're like, that's what I expected. And then there's some that really surprise you. So, yeah, I think it's worth running. I don't know how often, but, every so often, because our bodies are changing all the time.
So, Bridget, are we going to be discussing the how to go about running a Dutch test? Could we do that through you?
Yeah, so that's the bonus lesson after essential oils. So I think it's like November 13th.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so you can run it through us and we'll give you a discount on coaching. You can run a Dutch right through Dutch. It's a little more expensive if you don't have an account, like $75 more. But if some of you guys are practitioners, you can potentially get a Dutch account. I don't think they give an account to a health coach exactly. Like you can ask your client to run there's like some caveats. They can't really advise you if you're not a licensed provider. And we can look at a Dutch or two while we're on there. I generally tell people that even though it's more expensive to do it with coaching, you just don't really know what to do with the results unless you have somebody go through them with you and design the protocol with you. So I remember when I was a functional medicine student, I had to run labs on some people. People were like, oh yeah, I'll run labs. And I just hadn't really prepared them. And then like they got the labs and they were just like, oh, that's nice. Like it's actually a little more easy than you think to like not do anything with the lab. So I think it's good to have someone be like, this is what's going on. We want you to take this, and then either retest or just watch for symptoms. Not everybody will retest, but if your symptoms calm down, then you know something's went well. And Anna shared the information about the best CBD oil, so that's fun. It's interesting. All right, any other questions, anybody?
I feel like I've been with you for hours since I watched the mitochondria.
Did you watch that today?
Yeah, just before this started.
I feel like I've been with you guys for hours because I'm working on this lecture last 24 hours straight. I'm going to put the shop link on here too. And yeah, if you want to order stuff, please and thank you, because it helps me learn. But we'll also do a second webinar when the shop is a little bit more organized and ready. Let me show you guys a few things real quick. There's just a few things that didn't quite make it onto the shop yet. But here's that starter kit I told you with the dry brush. I think it's $85, so it's a good deal. The glutathione. These are the 3 different MitoQs, the pure PC. And then some of the things are kind of pulled out. The fish oil. Don't show Dan Pompa because he won't like that. The GI detox. And this is just a charcoal that's in our bloating kit. Because charcoal is the best thing for like GI, I found. So it's almost all on here. And then the hormones are here. They all kind of look the same. And then we have our magnesium powder. So shortly too, when we do the webinar, if you want to buy our multivitamin kit that has fish oil and magnesium and all that, we're going to give you an extra chelated magnesium for free. So when you need a little extra magnesium in your life, this one really helps you sleep. It's really well tolerated. It's a little sweet for my taste. But it's very nice, and we've been getting some good feedback on that. All right. Any other questions? By the way, oops, this code ends the Saturday? Not this Saturday, but the next. And we'll do a webinar before. All right, thanks everyone. I really hope you can make it live next week for the essential oils class. It's going to be really good. I'll try to rally some people for being here. So Elisa, Kelly, Lisa, you've all won things. Anna, have you won anything yet? Yeah. Did you win any prizes yet?
For me, not yet.
Okay, you're winning some prizes today. Do you want a parasite medication or some On Guard essential oils?
I'll take the parasite.
Whoa, okay. This is a really good one. It's Para One by Todd Watts. It's that Mimosa pudica herb.
Okay. That's supposed to be really good.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. You just had to show up and we got some parasite. What's your last name, Anna, so I can find you?
Singer.
Anna Singer.
Oh, sorry. It's Friedman on Facebook. So
Anna Friedman or Singer. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for being on here live, guys. It makes it a lot more fun for me. And hopefully I'll see all of you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.